Hey guys, and welcome back to the Ginger Realtor Show. We are Tuesday, which means it is Talking Point Tuesdays, and we have Christine Paige from Flagship Title. Christine, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Guys, before we start, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, give us all the love we can. I want to be an influencer. I don't want to be a realtor anymore. I want to make billions from advertising deals. No, not really, but look, we need to talk about title because it's the one part of the business that is key to what everybody does. We really can't, without a clean title, we can't transfer a property. And there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that you don't realize is happening as a buyer or seller. So Christine, kick it away. In a nutshell, what does a title company do?
Great. So yes, what title companies do is when we get a contract, the first thing we do is we're ordering the title search of public record. We're ordering a municipal lien search. We'll order HOA estoppel. We'll continue on once we get our search back and see if it comes back to clear title. With that, it's going to tell us multiple things. It's going to tell us if there's any current payoffs, if there's any past payoffs from prior sellers. It's going to let us know if there's any judgments, liens, child support judgments, probate issues, someone who hasn't signed out properly. There's many defects that can come back from a title search to let us know what is needed in order to give clear title. And that is truly really important to a buyer when they're buying the property, because they want to ensure that they're getting clear title and not have any issues that they're going to have to deal with later down the road.
Yeah, the last thing as a buyer that you want to do is forego the title search, purchase a home either through a realtor or not, and then find out 6 months after you've closed that there was a huge debt by the previous owner and there was a lien against your property, and now you'll face losing your house. So this is one of the things that having the title search done and understanding what's going on is why it's so vitally important. So you talked about a lot of things there, the title search, the county searches. What are you looking for?
So in a title search, we're looking to see who the current owner is of record. So we look at the most recent recorded deed. We look to see who the grantee is to make sure that all parties that are listed on that deed are actually the ones on the contract. Sometimes we find there's a name missing, and that can lead us to let us believe that, okay, where is this person? Are they still with us? Have they passed? Is someone trying to sell a spouse out from another spouse? And then we look for other issues on the deed, such as were they married or were they single when they purchased? Not only does it matter of what they were at time of conveyance of that deed, but we also looking to see what a seller's marital status is at time of closing as well. As you may or may not know, in the state of Florida, we have what's called the Florida homestead law. And that requires a special in the state of Florida, which may not be the same in other states, but here in Florida, on a primary residence, marital status matters. So let's say, for example, a seller buys the property and they're married and they're the only one on the deed. Well, at time of conveyance, if it's their primary residence, we must have the spouse sign out because in the state of Florida, again, homestead is protected to the spouse. Other things we run into is they might have been single at time of the deed, but then they've gotten married. And they may be still happily married or they may not be. But either way, if they're not divorced, they must have the spouse sign out on primary residence. So we also run into all other kinds of things.
I know back in New Jersey when we purchased our home, although the home was only in my wife's name, I had to sign to say that was acknowledging that she was buying a home, which I thought was a little bit backwards, but obviously you got to make sure that everything is legal and above board.
Agreed. And again, the reason is because the homestead is protected in the state of Florida, where if it's a second home, an investment, or they're purchasing as an LLC or a corporation, this does not apply. This only applies when it is a primary residence. And we do deal with a lot of residential resale that is primary residence. So these are one of the key things that we're looking on for a deed and to see what the marital statuses are. Now, there's so many other things that we're looking for in our title commitment, and I can go on and on about many of those, but the key factors are we're looking to see if the seller has any payoffs, are there any judgments against the seller, Is there any federal tax liens, child support liens, code enforcement, recorded liens, HOA recorded liens, anything that wouldn't allow us to give clear title to the new buyer. And then, of course, what we do is we work on clearing all those items, either ordering payoffs, getting payoff statements, getting releases, anything we can do to give clear title. So by the time we get to the table, all these have been resolved, and we're going to be able to give an owner's title policy free and clear to the buyer.
Okay, so let's run through a hypothetical, just because it will work really well for people who aren't quite sure what's going on. So let's say I own house A, and you want to buy that house, but I've got child support and I've got debts from the past that have court judgments against me. Do I have to clear those debts up before title is transferred, or can title be transferred and the proceeds be cleared off at time of closing?
Okay, great question. So if there are items that a seller wishes to clear up before closing, that is great. However, if they're not and we need to take care of it prior to closing, then we work on it. Now, if it's a primary residence, there is where if there's creditors such as credit cards, doctor bills, a small claim suit against the seller, those won't attach to the primary residence, but we do have to go through a process of notification to the creditors to give them the opportunity to dispute that the property is a primary residence. It takes about 45 days of that filing. So it will delay closing if they do have a lot of items that are judgments. Now, things that absolutely they can't get out of and which have to be paid is any federal tax liens, child support, and if there's a mortgage or lien or equity line or things like that.
Okay, so is it worth as a person who's looking to sell a home, if they're selling the home as the first home they've ever sold, they've been in there for, I said 20 years, for example, is it worth them having a title search done prior to listing, or is this something that can really just wait until the house has an offer?
No, we highly recommend. Matter of fact, we have a program, we call it Ship Shape. It is a pre-look at the property to make sure that there aren't any issues. And if you think about it, especially when the properties they've owned it for a long time, the laws and the way title was done 20 years ago is totally different from today. Today is included with the municipal lien searches. With back 20 years ago, municipal lien searches weren't even in the picture. And with the municipal lien searches, they're going to be looking for permit and code. Now, technically, under the Florida statute, a municipal lien search is only water, which is the municipality, and taxes. But we at Flagship, we also do the permit and code searches. And you definitely want to make sure that's looked at, because if there's not anything recorded in public record about a code violation, and they're definitely not going to record in public record a permit issue. And let's say, for an example, there was a pool put in, it was 20 years ago, they never had the permit closed out. Well, now when we do the permit search, there's an open permit, and we need to get it closed out in order to give clear title, because now we've got the municipal lien search and the buyer requested a permit search. Well, with that permit search, that pool, if it's not up to today's code and the items that are needed, they're going to have to get an engineer. If the pool company's no longer around in 20 years, I would assume it's not, possibly. Get an engineer to go out, assess what is needed, reopen the permit, have anything brought up to today's code, and then have the permit closed out. And that can be quite costly.
When you mentioned
as a buyer's agent,
when you mentioned that permit thing with the pool that was done 20 years ago, I had creepy crawlers crossing my spine. So I was like, I had a deal in New Jersey, which wasn't a pool, it was a basement that was closed up. I think it was like in the late 80s, which they were doing, but it was never permitted. Now my clients purchased it. When they purchased the house, there was no issue. The inspector came through and everything. But when they sold their house, the agent who represented the buyers actually owns one of these houses where everyone was closing up their basements, and requested the permits. And when we didn't have the permit, it cost my client about $1,500 to close out permits for something they'd never done. So make sure your permits are
Exactly.
closed.
Absolutely.
Okay, so ShipShape is a great program for people who own a home who are looking to sell it. Let's say I've bought my home and we've used Flagship Title for my title search. What protection do I have, and what programs do you have that will protect me after I've purchased my home in case you miss something or something wasn't filed right and it pops up years later?
Okay, so that's the whole purpose of getting an owner's title policy. One, as a seller, in most counties, depending on where the property is, it's customary in some areas versus another on who picks and pays title. But when an owner's title policy is purchased, it really not only protects the buyer, but it protects the seller. Because if there's issues that came up, instead of the buyer going directly back to the seller and saying, we want to sue the seller for this not being taken care of, the buyer actually can go back to the owner's title policy and place a claim for the items that are covered under that policy. For an example, let's say a mortgage was missed and it was indexed wrong. Well, at that point, the buyer would have the right to come back and place a claim against their policy. Not saying we do that, but things happen. Or let's say in HOA, there was a fee and it was missed for whatever reason. Instead of going back to the seller, the buyer would go back to the owner's title policy, to the title company and request that to be taken care of. And usually with everything that's covered under the policy, the title company will ensure it gets taken care of.
Okay, fantastic. Now let's run hypothetical. I love running hypotheticals with professionals. It really helps kind of explain what it is you do. Let's say that I'm out this weekend, I find a house that I want to buy, we put an offer in, and Monday morning I find out that my offer's been accepted. Between what point let's for ease of use, let's just say we're closing on March 1st, so you've got nearly 60 days. At what point should I start that title search?
Well, so if we just got the contract, we do the search as soon as we get the contract. If you just got the listing, send us your listing agreement. We'll go ahead and we'll run that search right then and immediately as well as run the municipal lien search, which includes the permit and code, which again, not to backtrack, but what's really nice about checking out the property by searching the property and searching the municipal lien search is up front what issues there may or may not be. And if there are any, that could give you some time in order to clear them up. And then when you do come with a contract with a buyer, you can say to, hey, Mr. Buyer, we've searched the property. Here's a report showing that the property is free and clear, and we can move forward smoothly with a smooth closing without any bumps or issues from being delayed from something coming up on title search. But then if you don't do that, then of course we do the search immediately. We order the municipal lien search as soon as the order starts. Now the HOA we hold off on, and depending on the time of closing, just due to the fact that it costs majority of the HOAs charge for those HOA estoppels, and that can be quite costly to your seller.
Yeah, another charge for the HOAs. I've got to be honest, I never thought HOAs were that much of an issue working in New Jersey, where it really isn't that much of a thing. We don't have these big communities the way that we do down here in Florida. And I'm learning so much with HOAs right now. There are some great ones, there are some terrible ones. Well, this has been fantastic.
Agreed.
Information. Now, one quick question. If let's say I purchased my house through you, or somebody purchased a home and used you for title a couple of years ago and have the title insurance, would we be able to expedite an additional search if I'm then buying that house and they already have an active title insurance through you? Does that make it easier?
Yeah, so what happens is if you sell your home, it's called what is called reissue credit. So if you sell your home within the first 3 years, you get a discount. And what it does is the underwriter saying, hey, we're going to rely on the prior policy that insured it up to the first 3 years. And instead of us searching and putting the time in to search from today's date to all the way as far as the records go, they only have to go back 3 years. And that saves them time and money. And then they pass that on to the savings of the client. So whoever's paying that, they get that benefit. So it can be quite a significant savings. It goes from The rate is $5.75 per thousand for the first 100,000, then drops down to $5. But it goes down, instead of being at that rate, it goes down to $3.75 for the first 100,000 to $3. And it can hugely be a couple $100 savings, if not more, just depending on if it's $1 million home or maybe a $250,000 home.
Okay, so title searches are based on the value of the home here in Florida, yeah?
No, not the title search itself, but the reissue credit is
Oh, the
based off
reissue
of
credit,
the
sorry,
sales
mistake.
price. That's okay. That's all right. We charge $195 for our title search, and that's a flat fee, across the board.
Okay. So, Christine, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Great. Our office number is 813-875-1200. My extension is 3211. You're also more than welcome to call me personally on my cell, which is 813-433-4941. And you can always go to our website, check us out. Our website is flagshiptitle.com.
Okay, so what I'll do is once I edit the video, and I've got to remember which way is which for this one. On this side is where Christine's going to be. We'll have her number down there. Hopefully I'm directing it right. I normally mess this bit up. We'll also put a link to the ShipShape program in the comments, so that if anyone has any questions about that, and any other questions, people can reach out to you directly. Christine, it has been an absolute pleasure. There were so many questions that I could ask you today, and I know that you've got so much knowledge that you can share with us. So I'd love to have you back on a regular basis, being a regular contributor to the channel, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, be my pleasure.
Fantastic. All right, guys, as I said, don't forget to like and subscribe on the video if you want to get more of this kind of content. I have no idea who we've got next week. I know that we have Christine this week. Let's see, it's a mystery. Let's see who we can bring in. But for this week, thank you very much for stopping by on our Talking Point Tuesday. Christine, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Have a great day.